The sound wasn't normal for her street. Grace Miller knew every noise that passed through that small American subdivision at night. The late Amazon van, the neighbor's truck, the train in the distance, the teens with loud music 3 houses down. But this wasn't that. This was heavy, angry, mechanical. A motorcycle engine pushed to the limit, then another vehicle. Then a stop that sounded wrong. Not a parking stop. A stop like someone was forced to stop. She froze in the hallway barefoot, holding a glass of water. The clock on the wall said 12:43 a.m. Her son, Ethan, 8 years old, was asleep in his room, door cracked open, nightlight on. She was alone in that house. And now something loud had pulled up outside. Then she heard it, a body hitting the ground. Not a box, not a trash can, a person. Grace's heart started beating fast. This town wasn't supposed to have trouble like that. Trouble stayed on the highway bars by the biker routes, not on her little street with trimmed grass and flags on porches. She walked to the window and pulled the curtain just an inch. A dark bike was on its side, light still on, handlebars twisted. A second set of headlights, a car, was already speeding away. Whoever dropped him off didn't stay to help. They dumped him. Grace didn't think. It was instinct. She put down the glass, grabbed the first sweatshirt she saw, checked that Ethan's door was still closed, and went to the front door. She opened it, and the night air hit her face. He was on the grass. A man. Big. Leather cut. Dark clothes soaked in something darker than rain. One arm trying to push himself up, the other gripping his side like he was holding his own life in. "Hey!" Grace hissed, running down the steps. "Hey, don't move." The man's eyes were half open, wild, alert in a way that said this wasn't his first time bleeding. His voice was low, broken. "Door closed? It's fine. My son is inside. You're okay. Don't move." She knelt beside him and saw the wound, lower left side close to the ribs. Bullet, clean in, messy out. He'd already lost a lot of blood. If she didn't stop it, he wouldn't make it to an ambulance. She looked back at her house. Call 911. Let cops come. Lights, questions, child services maybe wondering why a biker was bleeding on her lawn at midnight. Ethan would wake up terrified. No. She had been a nursing assistant once. She knew what to do. And she knew this man didn't have time. "Can you walk?" she asked. He tried to laugh. It came out like a crushed breath. "Not tonight, sweetheart." "Okay, then you're coming inside." He stared at her like she was crazy. "No cops." "I said inside. I didn't say cops." He was heavier than he looked, and he looked heavy. Muscles, gear, boots, wet leather. She got his arm over her shoulder and dragged him step by step, teeth clenched, praying Ethan wouldn't walk out and see blood on the floor. "Don't do this," he muttered. But even his protest sounded more protective than selfish, like he didn't want trouble to follow her. "Too late," she whispered. "I already opened the door." She got him onto her couch. The beige fabric was going to be ruined. Didn't matter. "Stay awake," she ordered. "What's your name?" He looked at her from under wet hair, eyes sharp even through pain. "Cole." "Okay, Cole, listen. You were shot. I need to stop the bleeding. I can't take you to a hospital. Whoever shot you might be looking." "Yeah," he breathed. "They're looking." That sent a chill down her spine, but she didn't let it show. She ran to the bathroom, grabbed her small emergency kit, towels, alcohol, the old suture kit she kept from back when she worked at the clinic. When she came back, his hand was on his jacket, holding it closed. "I need to see," she said. He didn't move. "Cole, if I don't see it, you die here in front of my son. Is that what you want?" That got him. He let go. She peeled the leather aside. That's when she saw it. The patch. A Reaper skull, white on black, with the name curved over it. Reaper's MC. She had heard that name at the diner, from truckers, from people who said not to mess with certain roads on certain nights. Reaper's wasn't some little weekend biker club. They were big, organized, respected or feared, depending on who was talking. And she had their president. She didn't know that yet, but she knew he was important. Bleeding on her couch. She swallowed and went to work. "Bite this," she said, giving him a folded towel. He obeyed. He didn't cry out. He winced, grunted, tensed his jaw so hard she thought he'd break his teeth, but he didn't scream. She cleaned, pressed, checked for an exit wound. Bullet had gone through, thank God, but tore muscle. "You're lucky," she said. "If it was an inch higher." He opened one eye. "I don't believe in luck." "Then call it timing." "Call it you," he said, breathing hard. "Why'd you help?" She was pressing down hard now, arms burning. "Because people don't get to die on my front lawn. Not while I'm here. Not where my kid sleeps." At the word kid, his eyes moved, looking toward the hallway. "You alone?" he asked. "Yes." He blinked slowly, absorbing that. "You shouldn't have opened the door." "Then why did you come here?" She shot back. "Why my street?" "Wasn't your street," he said. "Was dying." "Okay." Then they dropped him anywhere they could. Maybe they thought this street looked quiet. Maybe they thought he'd die before anyone noticed. Not tonight. She bandaged him tight. She got him water. She wiped blood off his face. Every now and then he watched her like he was trying to figure her out. "You're not scared," he said at one point. "I am," Grace said honestly. "But I'm more scared of doing nothing." He stared at her a long second. Something like respect passed through his eyes. He tried to sit up. She pushed him back down. "Sleep," she said. "Your body needs to slow down. I'll watch." "Don't call," he mumbled. "I won't." "You don't tell anyone." "I won't." He was out. Grace sat on the armchair across from him, watching his chest move. Her living room smelled like blood and antiseptic. Outside, her street was quiet again, like nothing had happened. She checked on Ethan. Her boy was still asleep, hair messy, one leg out of the blanket, breathing slow. She kissed his head, closed the door. Then she came back and looked at the biker on her couch. "Who are you, Cole? And are the people who shot you coming back?" She hardly slept. She dozed on and off, listening for engines. Twice she thought she heard something, but it was just wind. Around 5 a.m., she finally drifted off in the chair. The sound that woke her wasn't one engine. It was many. Not 2. Not 5. Dozens. Her eyes snapped open. Sun was barely up. She looked at the couch. Cole was still there, alive, breathing, arm over his bandage. Then the sound grew. It wasn't random. It was organized. Engines rolling in together like a wave coming down her street. Grace stood up, heart pounding. She ran to the window and pulled the curtain. Her street had never seen that many motorcycles. They were coming from both ends, filling the road, black and chrome and patched vests, headlights low. Neighbors' curtains were moving, phones were already pointed. Dogs were barking like crazy. Every house on that street was suddenly awake. They stopped in front of her house. Not close like an attack, respectful distance. They formed a line, then 2, then filled the road like a formation. Some of them had the same Reaper patch. Some had different roles stitched on. Sergeant-at-Arms, road captain, vice president. A tall man with sandy hair and a trimmed beard took off his helmet. He looked up at her house, at the number, at the porch. He said something through his mic to the others. Then, like it had been decided long before she woke up, they all did the same thing. They killed their engines. Silence hit the street like a drum, and 200 men, leather, boots, scars, tattoos, men who looked like they'd seen war, bowed their heads toward her house. Not to threaten, to honor. Grace's mouth went dry. On her couch, Cole stirred. He knew that sound. He pushed himself up with a groan, breathing through the pain. "They found me," he said. "Who are they?" Grace whispered. He looked at her like he was about to tell her what she'd actually done last night. "They're mine." Outside, a neighbor whispered loud enough for her to hear through the open window. Oh my God, what did she do? The tall biker on the street lifted his head and called out, voice strong, carrying over every lawn and driveway. The woman who saved our president is in there. President. Grace's eyes shot to Cole. President. The man continued louder, so every phone recording would catch it. No one touches her. No one touches her kid. She's under Reaper protection. Some of the men hit their chests once like a salute. Others kept their heads bowed. Grace's hands were shaking now. Not from fear, from the weight of what she'd just stepped into. Last night she saved a bleeding stranger. This morning, 200 bikers blocked her street to say thank you. But if they could find her this fast, then whoever tried to kill him could too. And if these men needed to bow, what kind of war had she just walked into? Grace stood frozen at the window. Engines silent. 200 men in black leather and chrome helmets lined up across her quiet street like a military formation. The sight was unreal. The same people the local news called dangerous outlaws were now lowering their heads toward her house. Her heart raced. She didn't even know what to do with her hands. Should she open the door? Should she hide? Behind her, Cole was struggling to sit up on the couch. He was pale, bandaged, and weak, but his voice still had weight. They came, he said slowly. Didn't expect this many. Grace turned. Who are they? He smirked through the pain. Family. A loud knock hit the door, firm but not violent. Grace flinched. Stay here, Cole ordered, trying to stand. His legs trembled. Absolutely not, she said. You're in no shape to. But he was already moving, dragging his weight toward the door, one hand pressed to his side. When he opened it, the tall, sandy-haired man from the street removed his helmet. Prez, the man said, voice full of relief. You're alive. Barely, Cole muttered. You brought the whole damn army, Ryder. They needed to see you breathing. His eyes moved past Cole to Grace. This her? Grace froze. Every biker on the street was now watching. Cole nodded. Grace Miller. She saved me. Ryder straightened his back, then lowered his head again. Not like a servant, but like a soldier saluting a general. Ma'am, he said, voice steady. On behalf of every Reaper on this side of the country, thank you. Grace didn't know how to respond. I just did what anyone would have done. Ryder almost smiled. No, ma'am. Anyone else would have closed the door. Behind him, engines roared once, short, synchronized, like a salute. Then all fell quiet again. Ethan's voice suddenly echoed from the hallway. Mom, what's going on? Grace spun around. Her little boy was rubbing his eyes, hair messy from sleep. It's okay, honey, she said softly. Just some people saying thank you. Ethan peeked past her and gasped. Whoa, are those real bikers? The men outside chuckled quietly. Even Cole let out a tired laugh. Yeah, kid, he said. Real as it gets. Grace crouched down, whispering, Back to your room, okay? I'll explain later. He nodded, but not before sneaking one last look through the window. Ryder stepped inside for a moment, scanning the living room. The blood, the towels, the ruined couch. You patched him up yourself? He asked. Grace nodded. I used to be a nurse's assistant. It was that or watch him die. Ryder exhaled like he'd seen enough death to know how rare that kind of courage was. We owe you more than thanks. You and your boy are under our protection now. Grace frowned. That's not necessary. Cole's tone changed, calm but firm. It is. Look, I don't want trouble. I just wanted to help someone who was hurt. Ryder looked at Cole, then back at her. The men who did this to him aren't finished, ma'am. If they find out who helped the Reaper president, they'll come for you too. Grace felt her stomach drop. What do you mean? Cole's voice was low. They don't leave witnesses. The people who ambushed me last night were Iron Vipers. They've been trying to take our territory for months. They got a tip. Someone inside our club told them where I'd be. Grace's mind spun. You're saying there's a traitor? Cole nodded once. And now you're on the list. Before she could answer, Ryder's radio crackled. VP, we've got movement 2 streets down, a voice said. SUV circling twice. Tinted windows. Ryder's face hardened instantly. Eyes on it. Don't engage unless they step closer. Grace's pulse jumped. Oh my God. Cole raised a hand. You're safe. They won't touch you. Outside, several bikers started their engines again and moved toward the intersection, blocking both ends of the road. Neighbors who had been filming started closing their blinds. Cole turned back to Grace. Pack a bag. You and your son are coming with us. She shook her head. No. I can't just run off with a biker gang. He gave a half smile that didn't reach his eyes. It's either that or wait for a drive-by. Her throat tightened. She looked toward Ethan's room, then back at him. Just until it's safe? Just until it's safe. Ryder nodded and stepped back outside, giving orders. Within seconds, the Reapers were forming up again, some facing outward in protection, others ready to ride. Grace hurried into Ethan's room. He was sitting on the bed, clutching his stuffed dinosaur. Are we leaving? He asked. Just for a few days, she said, packing clothes into a backpack. We're going somewhere safe. Is that man okay? The one you helped? She looked at Cole standing in the doorway, his leather jacket half zipped over fresh bandages. He will be. And the ride out of the neighborhood was like something from another world. Cole rode in front, flanked by Ryder and 2 other bikers. Grace sat in the back seat of a black pickup. Ethan pressed against her side, staring out the window in awe as rows of motorcycles roared behind them. People along the main street stopped and watched. Some recorded, some crossed themselves, others waved, unsure if they were witnessing a gang or an escort. Grace held Ethan's hand tighter. Cole turned his head once from the front of the convoy and met her eyes through the mirror. She didn't know what that look meant. Gratitude, warning, or both. They drove miles out of town, past the gas stations and diners, until the road turned to gravel and the air smelled like oil and pine trees. When the gates opened, Grace saw it, a wide lot with garages, bikes lined in perfect rows, banners, a bonfire pit, and a mural of a skull with wings. The Reapers' compound. Every man there turned to look at her and Ethan. No hostility, just curiosity and quiet respect. Cole climbed off his bike with difficulty. Welcome to our home, he said. Ethan whispered, This is awesome. Grace muttered, That's one word for it. Inside, Ryder showed them a small guest room with 2 beds, a lock on the door, and a tiny window facing the woods. You'll be safe here, he said. Nobody gets in without a key. Grace nodded. Thank you. Ryder hesitated, then added, Ma'am, you need to understand something. Cole's not just the head of a biker club. The Reapers keep order where the law doesn't. You saved a man who's kept half this county from burning. Grace blinked. I don't know what to do with that information. Just remember it, Ryder said, then left. That night, when the engines finally quieted and Ethan fell asleep in the new bed, Grace sat by the window, staring out at the flicker of the bonfire below. She could see Cole talking with his men, pointing at maps, motioning with his good arm. Even injured, he was in control. They listened to him like soldiers. And for the first time, she realized this wasn't chaos. It was a code. A world with rules, loyalty, punishment, and something she couldn't quite name yet. Cole looked up once, catching her watching. He didn't smile, but he didn't look away either. Just nodded slightly, as if saying, You're safe now. Grace closed the curtain and exhaled. Maybe she was safe. Maybe. But when the wind shifted, she thought she heard engines again, far away. Not the deep sound of Reapers, but something higher, meaner, faster. Vipers. They knew she existed now. And the war that started on her lawn was just beginning. The sun rose behind the biker compound like a quiet warning. Orange light cutting through exhaust haze and pine trees. Grace hadn't really slept. Every time a motorcycle engine roared or boots echoed outside, She woke up thinking someone had found them. When she stepped out of the small guest house, she found Cole already up. He was standing near the fire pit with a cup of black coffee, his leather cut open over fresh bandages. Around him, a few men were working on bikes, their hands stained with oil and smoke. They all stopped what they were doing when Grace walked by. Not to stare, but to nod. Respectfully. "You don't have to bow or anything," she said nervously. A tall biker named Ghost grinned. "Ma'am, after what you did for our president, nodding's the least we can do." Cole looked up from his coffee. "You get any sleep?" "Not really," Grace said. "Your engines have personalities. None of them are quiet." That made him laugh. Low, rough, but real. "That's the idea." She crossed her arms. "What happens now? Do we just hide here forever?" "Not forever," Cole said, his voice steady but heavy. "Until we find who set me up." Ryder came out of the garage holding a tablet. "We checked the camera footage from the ambush, Prez. 2 bikes and an SUV, all Vipers. But someone had to tell them where you'd be." Cole's jaw tensed. "How many brothers knew the location?" 4, Ryder answered. "And one of them's been acting strange since you went missing." Grace didn't know much about biker politics, but even she could see the shift in Cole's eyes, the cold stare of a man betrayed. She tried to change the subject. "So these Vipers, what do they want?" Cole turned to her. "They want what every dirty club wants: power, roots, and fear. We built peace in this area. They want to tear it apart. And you're sure they know where I live?" "They knew where I was," he said. "That means someone leaked your address too." Grace's breath caught. She glanced toward the guest house where Ethan was watching cartoons on her phone. "So my son's in danger because I helped you?" Cole met her eyes. "No. He's safe because you helped me. We'll make sure of it." Over the next few days, Grace started to see who the Reapers really were. They weren't just men in leather drinking beer around a fire. They were mechanics, veterans, medics, even ex-cops who had lost faith in the system. Every night they brought food for the poor, fixed bikes for free, and watched over neighborhoods that the sheriff's department ignored. She saw the respect the townspeople gave them, a quiet, unspoken alliance. The Reapers were feared by criminals but trusted by families who knew they'd show up faster than the police. Ethan loved it there. He followed Ghost around, learning about engines, and every time Cole passed by, Ethan's face lit up like Christmas morning. "Mom," he said one afternoon, "Mr. Cole said I can sit on his bike when he gets better." Grace smiled weakly. "Just don't ask to drive it." Cole overheard that and smirked. "Give him 10 years. He's got the look of a future Reaper." Grace raised an eyebrow. "Over my dead body." "Then I guess he's got your bravery," Cole said quietly. By evening, everything felt almost normal, until the power flickered. Once. Twice. Then the lights went out completely. A second later, 2 headlights appeared at the edge of the dirt road. Ryder shouted, "Heads up! Movement on the east fence!" Cole instantly straightened, wincing from the pain. "Positions!" The compound came alive. Engines roared, men grabbed rifles and bats. Grace ran to the guest house, heart pounding. Ethan was standing at the window. "Get down!" she whispered, pulling him behind the bed. Outside, she heard shouting, engines, the crack of a gun. Her pulse went wild. Then someone slammed on her door. "Grace, it's me." It was Ghost. "Stay low. They're testing us. 2 Vipers trying to get in." She peeked out through the curtain. 2 shadows near the fence. One of them raised a gun. Before she could even scream, a Reaper bike came out of nowhere, headlights slicing through the dark. The rider tackled one man full force. Both of them crashed into the gravel. The other tried to run, but Cole was already there, limping fast, his own pistol drawn. Grace covered Ethan's eyes as the confrontation ended in seconds. Shouts, metal, then silence. When she finally dared to look again, the Vipers were down and Cole was standing over them, chest heaving, blood trickling from his reopened wound. Ghost ran over. "You're bleeding again, Prez." Cole didn't answer. His eyes were fixed on Grace's window. She was still holding Ethan close, trembling. He walked toward the guest house slowly. When she opened the door, her voice cracked. "They came here, for us." He nodded. "They wanted me to see they could. Are they gone?" "For now." He winced and pressed his side. "But this was a message." Grace's voice rose. "You said we'd be safe here." "You are," Cole said firmly, "because I'm still standing." Her anger broke into tears. "I have a child, Cole. I can't keep running from men with guns." He stepped closer, lowering his tone. "You won't have to, I promise you that." Ryder appeared behind him. "We got one alive," he said. "He's talking." Cole turned to Grace. "Go inside. Lock the door." She obeyed, but through the window she saw them drag a man into the yard, beaten, scared. Cole leaned close, said something she couldn't hear, and the man started talking fast, pointing toward the highway. Later, when Cole came back, he looked different, colder, more resolved. "They were looking for me," he said. "But they mentioned you. They knew a woman and a kid helped me. That means they're planning something bigger." Grace's chest tightened. "So what now?" He looked out toward the woods. "Now they learn there are lines you don't cross, you don't threaten my club, and you don't touch the woman who saved my life." That night, the compound stayed on full alert. Guards rotated every hour. Engines stayed warm, ready to roll. Grace sat with Ethan until he fell asleep, then went outside to find Cole. He was leaning against his bike, cleaning his gun under the moonlight. "You should be resting," she said softly. "Can't," he replied. "Every time I close my eyes, I see headlights." "Cole, why are they so desperate to kill you?" He hesitated. "Because I wouldn't join their deals. They traffic more than bikes, drugs, people. I told them the Reapers don't run poison, so they decided to erase me." Grace's eyes widened. "You stood against them for that?" He shrugged. "Some lines you don't cross." She looked at him, the blood, the scars, the quiet exhaustion in his face. He wasn't a monster. He was a man who had built a wall between good and evil and stood on the right side of it. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For what?" "For being the kind of man my son can still believe in." For the first time since she'd met him, Cole looked speechless. Then headlights flared in the distance, cooed again. Ryder's voice shouted from the gate, "They're testing us again." Cole's expression hardened. "Stay inside, Grace. Whatever happens next, it's on me." He pulled his jacket tight, climbed on his bike, and rode out with half the club into the night. Grace watched the taillights disappear into the dark road. Something told her this wasn't just a war about territory anymore. They had made a mistake coming after her, and Cole Lawson was about to show the world why the Reapers bowed for her. The Reapers didn't sleep that night. The compound stayed lit by bonfires and headlamps, men circling the yard with rifles, checking perimeters, engines idling every few minutes like restless beasts. Grace barely closed her eyes. Every time she drifted off, she saw headlights, heard gunshots, felt Ethan's small hand gripping hers in fear. When dawn came, the quiet felt worse than the noise. Cole was already awake. He stood at the long wooden table in the main hall, a map spread in front of him, surrounded by Ryder and a few others. Grace stood in the doorway, unnoticed for a moment. "You sure about this?" Ryder asked. Cole nodded, his tone sharp. "They hit close last night. They'll try again. We find the leak, end it before it hits her kid." "Prez?" Another man said carefully. "You think it's someone inside?" Cole's eyes darkened. "I know it is." Grace stepped forward. "How can you be sure?" All heads turned toward her. The men fell silent out of respect, not because she was feared, but because they knew who she was now. The woman who saved the Reaper president. Cole's voice softened when he looked at her. "Because only 4 people knew where I was hiding that night, and the Vipers showed up within an hour." Grace frowned. 4 people? And 1 betrayed you." Ryder handed her a coffee mug. We'll find out which one. By mid-morning, Ethan was outside, helping Ghost wash bikes. His laughter echoed through the yard, a strange, innocent sound in a place built for war. Grace watched from the steps, arms folded. Cole limped over, still favoring his side. Kid's fearless. He likes you, she said. Cole raised an eyebrow. That's dangerous. He sees something good in you, Grace replied. Maybe you should try seeing it too. He didn't answer, just stared at the bikes glinting under the sun. When you grow up around violence, you start to think it's the only language people understand. Grace's tone softened. Then maybe it's time you teach them a new one. He gave her a look, part disbelief, part admiration. You always talk like that? Only when someone's trying to be a hero and doesn't realize it. He almost smiled. Don't start rumors, sweetheart. My men already think I'm soft because I didn't let those vipers burn your house. Grace's expression hardened. You call that soft? Cole looked down, thoughtful. Maybe not. Later that afternoon, Ryder came running. Prez, we found something. He handed Cole a phone, cracked screen, smudged with grease. We pulled this off one of the vipers last night. Texts, calls, coordinates. They mention a meeting and a name. Cole's voice dropped. Whose name? Ryder hesitated. Duke. The room went silent. Grace could feel the change in the air. Who's Duke? She asked quietly. Cole's jaw tightened. My brother. Grace blinked. Your brother betrayed you? Cole didn't answer right away. He walked out into the open yard, staring at the horizon like it held the truth. He left the club 2 years ago. Said he was done with this life. I guess he found a new one. Ryder followed. Prez, we don't know for sure. Cole cut him off. If his name's in their messages, it's for a reason. Grace stepped closer. Maybe they're setting him up. Cole looked at her, eyes full of pain and something darker. You don't know him. Duke always wanted control. Always thought I got what he deserved. Maybe this is how he takes it back. Ethan's laugh echoed again from the other side of the yard. The sound snapped Cole out of his rage. He looked toward the boy, then back at Grace. You and your kid changed things here, he said quietly. These men would die for you now. You gave them something to believe in again. Grace shook her head. I didn't do anything. Yeah, you did. You reminded us what we were supposed to stand for. Before she could reply, a radio crackled. Cole, we got eyes on Duke. He's riding with 3 Vipers, heading east on Highway 19. Cole's eyes hardened. Ryder, get the bikes ready. Grace stepped forward. Wait, what are you going to do? End it, he said simply. You're injured. You can't just... I have to. If I don't stop him, he'll keep coming. And next time, he won't miss. Ryder grabbed his gear. We'll handle it, Prez. You don't need to... I need to look my brother in the eyes, Cole snapped. The room went still. An hour later, the engines roared to life. Grace watched from the porch as the convoy lined up. 40 bikes, engines growling like thunder. Cole mounted his Harley with effort, every movement pained but controlled. Ryder gave her a nod. We'll bring him back. Grace stepped forward, grabbing Cole's arm. Promise me something. He turned. Promise me you won't let anger make you like them. He studied her face for a moment, then nodded. I promise. And then they were gone, dust and thunder rolling down the highway. Grace spent the next few hours pacing. Every sound made her jump. Ethan eventually fell asleep on the couch in the clubhouse, still clutching his toy dinosaur. As night fell, headlights appeared far down the road. For a second, she thought it was the Reapers returning, but there were too few lights, and the engine sounded wrong. Her blood ran cold. She ran outside and saw 2 black SUVs slowing near the fence. Ryder, she whispered into the walkie they'd left her. No answer. The guards at the gate shouted, raising weapons. The SUVs didn't stop. They rammed the gate. Metal screeched, sparks flew. Get inside, someone yelled. Grace sprinted back toward the guest house, grabbed Ethan from the couch. He woke up crying. "Mom, what's happening?" "Hold on to me, baby." Gunfire erupted outside. She ducked behind the kitchen counter, heart pounding, Ethan shaking in her arms. Through the noise, she heard one thing clearly: a man's voice shouting her name. "Grace Miller, bring the kid." Her blood turned to ice. How did they know her name? She crawled toward the window and peeked out. Men in black jackets with snake emblems. The Vipers. They were shooting at the compound, but not to kill, to distract. And then she saw him. A tall man with the same eyes as Cole, the same jawline, standing beside the SUVs. "Duke." He was yelling orders. She whispered to herself, "Oh my God, it's true." Inside the main hall, the few Reapers left were firing back. Ghost ran to the door yelling, "We're outnumbered." Grace clutched Ethan and looked around frantically. She needed to get him somewhere safe. Then she remembered. Behind the garage was an old storm shelter. She ran outside during a break in the gunfire, keeping low. Bullets hit the dirt around her feet. She covered Ethan with her body, sprinting until she reached the metal hatch. It was heavy, rusted, but she forced it open. "Go, baby, down the ladder." Ethan climbed down, shaking, tears on his cheeks. Grace followed, closing the hatch above them. They sat in darkness, the sound of gunfire muffled but relentless. "Mom," Ethan whispered, "is Mr. Cole coming back?" She swallowed hard. "Yes, sweetheart. He always comes back." She prayed she wasn't lying. Miles away on Highway 19, the Reapers were facing Duke and his 3 Vipers. Cole dismounted his bike, pain tightening every muscle. The night wind whipped through his jacket. Duke smiled as he stepped off his own motorcycle, tossing his helmet aside. "Brother," Duke said, "didn't expect to see you still breathing." "Grace patched me up," Cole said coldly. "You sent the men who shot me." Duke shrugged. "You got soft. You forgot what this life is. Fear keeps us alive. You started saving people. You made us weak. You turned it into trash," Cole growled. "We protect the innocent. You sell them." Duke smirked. "You always thought you were better than me." "I was better than you," Cole said. "Until tonight. Tonight I'm done being your brother." They circled each other, 2 wolves from the same bloodline but different worlds. The standoff broke with a single gunshot. Back at the compound, Grace heard the echo of engines again, louder, closer. Then headlights appeared through the trees. The Reapers were coming back. She climbed out of the shelter, pulling Ethan behind her. Smoke filled the yard, fences broken, men shouting. And then she saw Cole, blood on his arm, limping but alive, leading the charge. The Reapers surrounded the Vipers who hadn't fled, forcing them to the ground. Duke's men were finished. Cole's eyes swept the yard until he saw Grace. Relief hit him like air after drowning. He ran, faster than his injuries should have allowed, and pulled her into his arms. "Are you okay?" She nodded, breathless. "We hid. They said your brother was with them." "He's not anymore," Cole said grimly. Ethan tugged at his jacket. "You came back, Mr. Cole?" Cole crouched down, smiling weakly. "Told you I would, kid." By midnight, the last of the smoke was gone. The surviving Vipers were tied and waiting for the sheriff to pick them up. An unspoken agreement between law and chaos that nobody talked about. Cole sat on the steps beside Grace, watching Ethan sleep again in her lap. The night was quiet. "Duke's gone?" she asked softly. "Yeah," he said. "He made his choice." "I'm sorry." He shook his head. "I'm not. You can't save a man who doesn't want saving." They sat in silence for a moment, the fire crackling nearby. Finally, Grace said, "When I opened that door and found you bleeding, I thought I was making a mistake, but now, I think it was supposed to happen." Cole looked at her. Really looked. "You changed my club, my men, me." She smiled faintly. "Maybe you just needed someone to remind you what kind of man you are." He reached out, brushed a strand of hair from her face. "If anything ever happens again, Grace, you call me. Doesn't matter where I am. I'll ride through hell to get to you." She met his gaze. Let's hope it doesn't come to that. Cole chuckled softly. With my luck, it probably will. The faint hum of engines still echoed in the distance. Not enemies this time, but watchmen. Brothers guarding the family of the woman who'd saved their leader. Grace finally exhaled, the tension of days lifting from her chest. But deep down, she knew something. This wasn't over. The Vipers had lost, but men like that didn't disappear. They waited, rebuilt, plotted. And now every biker on the East Coast knew one thing. The Reapers had a weakness, a woman and a little boy. Cole's hand tightened around his coffee mug as he stared at the horizon. If they ever come near her again, he murmured, I'll make the ground shake. Grace didn't hear him. She was already inside, tucking Ethan into bed, whispering a prayer that tomorrow would finally be quiet. But outside, the night wind carried the faint growl of an engine, one she didn't recognize. Someone was still watching. The attack on the compound should have been the end of it. They'd caught Vipers alive, exposed Duke, broken the SUVs, showed every rival club in the area that the Reapers were still strong, even with their president wounded. For a few hours, the night was calm. Men laughed again. Engines cooled. Grace actually slept for more than 20 minutes. But real danger never announces itself twice. It waits until everyone relaxes. It hits what you love. That morning, just after 8 a.m., Grace was braiding Ethan's hair at the little table in the guest house. He was getting bored of hiding, as he called it. He wanted to go back to school, see his friends, stop living with all the motorcycles. Can I go to school today? He asked, mouth full of cereal. Grace hesitated. I don't know, baby. There's still bad people looking for Mr. Cole. But they're looking for him, not me. That sentence dropped in her chest like a stone. She cupped his face. Listen to me. Because I helped Mr. Cole, some bad people might want to bother us. That's not your fault. But until Mr. Cole says it's safe, we stay close. Ethan groaned. But I miss Miss Porter. Grace smiled. I know. I do too. Outside, engines were already warming. Cole always sent patrols out early. She could hear him giving orders, his voice firm, steady. She felt calmer when he was in the yard. Then Ryder ran across the compound with his phone in hand, face pale. Cole, he shouted. You need to hear this. Grace's stomach tightened. She opened the door a crack and watched. Cole took the phone. Yeah? A woman's voice came through, panicked, fast. Grace couldn't hear every word, but she heard enough. Strange men in the parking lot. Black SUV, asking if a boy named Ethan Miller was in today. Grace dropped the cereal bowl. Cole looked up sharply, eyes already scanning for her. Pull the kids inside and lock the doors, he said into the phone. We're on our way. He hung up, turned to Ryder. How far is the school from here? 15 minutes if we fly. We fly. Grace burst out of the guest house. They went to his school? Cole didn't sugarcoat it. Yeah, they asked for him by name. They weren't subtle. Her vision blurred. My son is there. We're going to get him, Cole said. Right now. She grabbed his vest. I'm coming. No, he said instantly. You stay here. You're not leaving me here while my son is in a school with criminals looking for him. They stared at each other, both stubborn, both scared for the same child now. Cole clenched his jaw. Fine. But you ride in the truck, not on the bike, and you stay behind me at all times. If I tell you to get down, you get down. I will. He turned and yelled, voice filling the whole yard. Reapers, mount up. This is a child recovery. We roll with full honor. Every man stopped what he was doing. Tools dropped, coffee cups were set aside, doors slammed, engines started. Grace had never seen anything like it. Within 2 minutes, the entire compound was moving. Bikes rolled out in lines, patches gleaming, men masked and focused. A black pickup pulled up for her door open. Ghost was driving. Get in, ma'am. She lifted Ethan. No, Cole said. He stays here. Grace froze. What? If they see him with us, they might attack on the road. He stays guarded here." Grace looked torn in two. Ethan was already clinging to her. "Mom." She crouched and grabbed his face. "Listen to me. You stay here with the bikers. They will protect you. I'm going to the school to make sure no one takes your friends, okay?" He swallowed hard. "Will you come back?" "I always come back." He nodded, trying to be brave. Ryder took him gently and carried him toward the clubhouse, where 2 armed reapers were already standing guard. Grace climbed into the truck, heart pounding. Cole swung onto his bike. Ryder took the front with him. Then the gates opened. The street outside the compound exploded with sound. 200 motorcycles rolled out in formation. Not wild, not showy, but tight and disciplined, like a private army. Engines thundered down the road, shaking windows. People stopped in their yards as the convoy passed, staring with open mouths. "Whoa," Ghost muttered as he drove behind them. "This town is going to be talking about this for 10 years. Grace gripped the door handle, eyes on Cole's back. He was riding slightly ahead like a shield in motion. "What if they take a kid before we get there?" she asked, voice shaking. "They won't," Ghost said. "They won't even touch the fence by the time we arrive." "How can you be so sure?" He cracked a smile. "Because nobody expects 200 angry bikers to show up at an elementary school." They ate distance fast. The school came into view, a small brick building with a U.S. flag in front, yellow buses parked on the side, parents' cars lined up. Everything looked normal, too normal. Then Grace saw it, a black SUV parked across the street, windows tinted, 2 men standing outside pretending to smoke, looking way too fit and way too nervous to be parents. Cole saw them too. He raised his hand. The entire convoy slowed without a single horn. Teachers and kids inside the building pressed to the windows, faces stunned, watching the biggest motorcycle escort the town had ever seen form a shield in front of their school. Cole pulled up to the curb and killed his engine. The 2 men by the SUV instantly stiffened. Ryder and 3 others walked toward them, calm, but with the kind of calm that said they'd break bones if needed. "Morning, gentlemen," Ryder said. "You lost?" One of the men tried to play dumb. "We're waiting for someone." Cole stepped in. "Who?" The man glanced at him and didn't answer. Cole's tone dropped. "Wrong answer." The man's hand twitched toward his jacket. That was the end of his choices. Ryder slammed him against the SUV. Another reaper twisted the other man's arm behind his back. Kids inside the school screamed. Not in terror, but in shock. Teachers started pulling blinds. Grace jumped out of the truck and ran for the front door. "Grace!" Cole barked. "Stay." But she was already inside. The principal, a middle-aged woman with shaking hands, met her. "Ms. Miller, thank God. We got a call. We locked the children in their classrooms. Police said they were sending a car." "The police aren't fast enough today," Grace said. "Where's Ms. Porter's class?" "Back hallway, room 104. Grace ran. Down the hall, small faces peeked out from door windows, eyes wide. A little girl whispered, "Are those bad guys?" "No, baby," a teacher said. "Those are friends." Grace burst into room 104. Ms. Porter was holding the door closed, kids sitting on the floor with their backpacks. "Ethan's not here," Ms. Porter said quickly. "I saw on the news they said your address was attacked." "He's safe," Grace said. "But some men came here for him. Did they talk to anyone?" Ms. Porter swallowed. "They asked the receptionist if a boy named Ethan Miller was enrolled. We said we couldn't give that information. Then we called you." "You did perfect," Grace said, breathing hard. "Keep them inside until the bikers say it's clear." "Bikers?" the teacher echoed. Grace almost laughed. "Long story." She went back outside. By then, 2 police cars had arrived. Too late. The cops stepped out, hands on their belts, mouths open at the sight of motorcycles covering the entire street. An officer approached Cole. "What's going on here?" Cole didn't blink. "2 men came to take a kid. We got here first." "You can't just—" "We're not touching the school," Cole said. We're protecting it. The officer looked at the restrained men, then at the terrified staff. He hesitated. All right, we'll take them from here. Cole stared at the two men. Who sent you? They kept their mouths shut. Ryder leaned closer to one. You sure you don't want to talk before you go downtown? Cops will make a report. Your boss will know you failed. We won't. That got through. One of the men swallowed. It wasn't the Vipers. Cole's eyes narrowed. Then who? Them. The ones paying the Vipers. Guys from out of state. They said the kid is leverage. Said the Reapers went soft 'cause of some woman. Grace felt her face go cold. The officer cleared his throat. We'll take it from here. Cole nodded once. Make sure word gets out. This school is under Reaper protection. The officer hesitated, then actually nodded back. Understood. On the way back, the convoy didn't ride quietly. They rode loud. On purpose. Not for show. For warning. Every highway camera, every trucker, every rival biker within 10 miles would hear that the Reapers had just rolled 200 strong to protect one child. That was a message you couldn't delete. Grace sat in the truck, shaking, adrenaline slowly leaving her body. Ghost glanced at her. See? We told you. Nobody touches what's ours. She wiped her eyes. He's not yours. Ghost chuckled. He is now. Back at the compound, Ethan was waiting on the porch, guarded by two men with rifles. Mom! He yelled, running to her. She hugged him so hard he squeaked. You're okay. You too, he said, voice muffled against her shoulder. Mr. Cole saved us again? She looked over his head at Cole, who was dismounting slowly, pain written all over his face. Yeah, she said. He did. Cole walked up to them, serious. You okay, champ? Ethan nodded hard. Yeah. Cole crouched, wincing. Listen to me real good, okay? If a stranger ever says your name, but your mom's not there, you run. You run to a teacher, you run to a biker, you don't get in any car, ever. Even if they say you sent them? Ethan asked. Cole smiled. If I send someone, I'll tell your mom first. Okay. Grace watched the exchange with a tight throat. Cole wasn't just protecting them now. He was training her son how to survive men like the ones who hunted bikers. She pulled Cole aside. They went after a school, Cole. That's not just biker war. That's low. He nodded. Means they're desperate. Means they think you care about us. I do. She stared at him. Then what now? Because if they don't stop, we can't just keep reacting. His eyes went dark again. We're not reacting anymore. Tonight we go to them. Tonight? She repeated. Tonight I call every Reaper charter in 3 states, he said. We hit the Vipers, we hit their backers, we cut the head off. We make sure nobody ever thinks using a kid is smart. Isn't that dangerous? It's war, he said simply. You don't win by waiting. Ryder came over, checking his phone. Prez, I talked to Jersey, to Ohio, to the Southern boys. They heard what we did today. They're in. How many? Cole asked. Enough to make it loud. Cole nodded, satisfied. Good. Grace blinked. Loud? How loud? Ryder grinned. Loud enough for them to remember the sound for the rest of their lives. The rest of the day was movement. Bikes were fueled, weapons checked, maps laid out, scouts sent ahead. Grace watched all of it happen from the porch, feeling both small and protected. She had never been in the middle of something this big. She was just a single mom who opened her door to a bleeding man. Now a multi-state biker operation was forming because the enemy had said her son's name. That was the kind of man Cole Lawson was. That was the kind of man she had saved. At sunset, he came to her door. You'll stay here tonight, he said. You'll have 10 men posted. No one gets in or out. You're going? She asked, even though she already knew. He nodded. Yeah. What if you don't come back? He looked straight at her. I will. You can't promise that. I can, he said. Because I've got 200 men riding behind me who won't let me fall. Not after what you did. Grace swallowed. Be careful. He stepped closer, lowering his voice so only she could hear. They crossed a line. We're going to show them what happens when you make a mother cry in Reaper territory. Then he kissed her forehead. Not romantic, not careless, but like a soldier being blessed before battle. He turned and walked toward his bike. Engines started again. This time, it wasn't for rescue. It was for retaliation. Ethan stood beside Grace on the porch, watching with wide eyes. Where are they going? To make it safe, Grace said. For us? For everybody. The convoy rolled out into the night, darker than the first time, leaner, harder. The ground shook under the power of so many motorcycles leaving at once. Grace held Ethan close, watching the last red taillight disappear down the road. The compound was quiet again. Too quiet. And somewhere out there, in an old warehouse or yard or truck stop, men who thought they could use a child as leverage were about to hear a sound they'd never forget. The sound of a biker army coming for them. And Grace knew the next part, the last part, wouldn't be about survival anymore. It would be about respect. It would be about what kind of woman 200 bikers bowed for. The road that night looked like a river of fire. 200 bikes roared through the darkness, engines synchronized like thunder, headlights cutting through the cold air. No music, no shouting, no chaos. Just purpose. They weren't riding for territory this time. They were riding for justice, for a woman and her son. Grace watched them disappear into the horizon from the porch, her hands trembling. Ethan was asleep inside, clutching his stuffed dinosaur, unaware that the man he admired was heading straight into danger. The Reaper compound felt hollow without the sound of engines. Only a handful of guards remained. Older bikers, men with scars and quiet eyes. They stayed near the gate, watching the road like wolves guarding a den. Grace couldn't sit still. Every shadow made her flinch. Every gust of wind felt like a sign. Finally, she whispered to one of the guards, "When they come back, will there be more blood?" The man looked at her gently. "Ma'am, when men like Cole ride out like that, they don't stop till the job's done." Hours earlier, abandoned freight yard, outskirts of the city. Cole and Ryder stopped their bikes at the edge of a massive rusted yard full of empty containers and half-lit warehouses. The Vipers were inside. So were their backers, the out-of-state traffickers who had paid them. Cole's men spread out silently, surrounding the place. The air smelled like gasoline and danger. Ryder adjusted his earpiece. "We got eyes on 6 guards outside, maybe 20 more inside." Cole nodded, voice calm. "We don't go in guns blazing unless they shoot first. We give them a chance to walk away if they don't." Ryder finished the sentence for him. "They don't walk away at all. They moved like ghosts." When Cole stepped into the yard, the noise of the engines behind him grew into a deep, unified growl. 200 bikers standing behind their leader. From the shadows, the Vipers emerged, wearing green patches, tattoos glinting under the floodlights. Their leader, a thick man named Mason Pike, smirked as he stepped forward. "Well, well, the Reaper president himself. Heard you died." "Sorry to disappoint," Cole said. "You went after a woman and a child. That ends tonight." Mason laughed. "You're getting soft, Cole. What's next, you gonna adopt them?" Cole's voice dropped to a growl. "That woman saved my life, and that kid didn't do anything except exist. You came for him. That means every man here signed his death sentence." Mason raised his gun. "So be it." The first shot cracked the night. Then the world exploded. The fight wasn't a movie. It was raw, loud, and fast. Engines roared as bikers used them for cover. Metal clanged, glass shattered, bullets hit walls. The Reapers moved like a storm, coordinated, precise. Cole took a bullet through his shoulder but kept firing, shouting orders. "Push left. Take the gate." Ryder and Ghost flanked the Vipers from the back, cutting off their exit. Within minutes, the yard was chaos, but controlled chaos. Mason tried to run. Cole caught him before he reached the fence. He slammed him against a container, gun pressed to his chest. "You're done," Cole hissed. Mason spat blood. "You think killing me changes anything? There's always another snake." "Not tonight," Cole said and pulled the trigger. The shot echoed like final judgment. By sunrise, it was over. The yard was silent, except for the rumble of engines and the sound of tires rolling out. The Reapers had cleared every corner, freed 2 trafficked women the Vipers had been hiding, and burned the last of their vehicles. Ryder walked up beside Cole, his face streaked with grime. "It's done. Vipers are finished." Cole didn't smile. He just looked toward the rising sun. "Let's go home." Back at the compound, Grace woke to the sound she'd been waiting for, the low, distant thunder of returning bikes. She rushed outside, heart hammering. The guards opened the gates. Dust rose on the horizon as the convoy appeared, headlights glinting like stars against the dawn. Ethan ran to her side, rubbing his eyes. "They're back?" "They're back," she whispered. The bikes rolled in slowly, tired but alive, faces smeared with smoke and dirt. Every man looked exhausted, but their eyes burned with pride. Then she saw him. Cole. Blood on his shirt, shoulder bandaged, jaw clenched, eyes soft when they found her. He parked his bike and swung off, limping slightly. Grace didn't wait. She ran to him. He caught her mid-run, holding her tight despite the pain. She felt his heartbeat, fast but strong. "You're hurt," she said, tears spilling. "I've been worse," he whispered. "It's over, Grace. They won't touch you again." She looked up at him, her voice trembling. "You did this for us." He shook his head. "You did this for me. You reminded me what we're supposed to fight for." Ethan tugged at his vest. "Mr. Cole, are the bad guys gone?" Cole smiled, tired but proud. "All gone, buddy." The boy grinned. "Can I ride your bike now?" "Someday," Cole said, chuckling. Later that morning, as the sun fully rose, something unexpected happened. Without a word, the Reapers began to line up their bikes in the yard. Rows upon rows of chrome and leather, engines still warm. They parked facing Grace's house. Ryder gave a nod. Cole stepped forward, standing beside her. "Grace Miller," he said loudly, his voice carrying through the air. "You saved a dying man when everyone else would have looked away. You stood between danger and a child. You reminded 200 men what honor means." He turned to his men. "Show her the respect she earned." Every Reaper killed his engine. Silence fell. Then, one by one, 200 men bowed their heads. Grace felt her throat close. Tears spilled freely now. Ethan grabbed her hand, staring in awe at the sea of bikers kneeling toward their porch. Cole leaned close. "They bowed for you once because you saved me. This time, they bow because you saved all of us." She wiped her face, laughing through tears. "I didn't do anything special." Cole smiled softly. "You opened a door, Grace. That's more than most people ever do." The months that followed were quiet. The Vipers vanished, the traffickers arrested. The Reapers rebuilt their clubhouse and started community runs, food drives, charity rides for kids. Grace helped organize them, always with Ethan at her side. Cole healed slowly, but every time she saw him, the same thought returned. Some souls were meant to collide, even if it hurt. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the trees, he came to her porch again. "You ever think about leaving this place?" he asked. "Sometimes," she admitted. "But every time I do, I think about how you'd survive without someone to keep you in line." He chuckled. "You planning on sticking around then?" She smiled. "Maybe. Someone has to make sure you don't forget the rules." He stepped closer, eyes locked on hers. "You already rewrote them." For a long moment, neither spoke. The cicadas buzzed, the last rays of light painting the sky gold. Grace reached up and touched his shoulder gently. "You know, I never asked what the Reapers really stand for." He looked at her, voice low. "It means we take death off the innocent, and give it back to the ones who earn it. She nodded slowly. Then I guess I'm proud of you, Mr. Lawson. He smiled. You sure you don't want to trade Mr. Lawson for coal? She laughed. We'll see. That night, after he left, Grace stood on the porch, watching the stars. For the first time in years, she wasn't afraid. Her son was safe. Her home was guarded by the sound of engines that once terrified her. And somewhere down the road, a man she'd saved, a man everyone else feared, was riding under the same sky, keeping his promise. She whispered to herself, sometimes saving one life changes 200 others. Then she turned off the porch light, smiled, and went inside. Outside, faint and distant, the wind carried a familiar sound, engines humming like a heartbeat in the night. The Reapers weren't just guarding their president anymore. They were guarding the woman they all bowed for.